My child, I want to speak to you about the silence, not the silence of a quiet room or a peaceful morning. I mean the other kind, the silence that comes after. You've prayed the same prayer for the 100th time and heard nothing back. The silence that follows a question you've asked me through tears, more than once, more than a few times. The kind of silence that makes you wonder if I've stopped listening, or worse, if I was never listening at all. I want you to know that I see you in that silence, and I want to tell you the truth about it, because the truth is different from what your fear has been telling you. There is a verse that has carried people through seasons exactly like this one. It says, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." Engraved, not written in pencil, easily erased, not a note I might misplace. Engraved into the palms of my own hands, so that every time I open them, I see you there. I want you to sit with that image for a moment. Think about your own hands. Think about what it would mean for something to be carved into your palms, not decoration, not something added on, but part of the hand itself. That is how close you are to me. Not an afterthought. Not a name on a long list I check occasionally. Carved in, permanent, impossible to lose. So if that's true, and it is, then why does it feel like silence sometimes? Why do the prayers seem to go up and nothing seems to come down? I want to walk through this honestly with you, because I don't want to give you an easy answer that falls apart the next time the silence returns. I want to give you something that will actually hold. First, understand this. Silence is not the same as absence. You have felt this in your own relationships, haven't you? Someone can be sitting right next to you, present, caring, attentive, and still not be talking. Silence between two people who love each other is not always a sign that the relationship has broken. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes silence is what deep trust looks like when it isn't performing for an audience. I am not the kind of presence that needs to constantly announce itself to be real. I was with Elijah not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in the sound of a gentle whisper, so quiet he almost missed it. I have always worked this way. Loud is not my only language. Sometimes I am loudest in what looks like nothing at all. Second, I want you to consider something about your own life. Think about the seasons that shaped you the most, not the easy seasons, but the ones that actually changed something in you. I would guess that many of those seasons involved waiting for an answer, waiting for clarity, waiting through something that didn't make sense at the time. That waiting was not wasted time. Even when it felt like nothing was happening, something was being formed in you that could not have been formed any other way. Faith that has never had to wait in silence is a thinner kind of faith. It hasn't been tested yet. It hasn't had to decide, in the absence of a clear answer, whether it still trusts. The silence you're in right now is not evidence that I've left. It might be the very place where something durable is being built in you. Patience, depth, a trust that doesn't depend on constant reassurance. I know that explanation can feel cold when you're the one in the silence. So, let me say something warmer, something more personal. I am not asking you to be grateful for the pain of feeling unheard. I am not asking you to pretend the waiting doesn't hurt. It does hurt. I know it hurts, because I have felt what waiting feels like too. There was a night in a garden when I asked for a different path, and the answer I received was not the one I wanted. I know what it is to pray honestly, and to wait through silence that felt unbearable. I am not asking you to endure something I have never endured myself. Third, and this matters, silence is not rejection. There is a difference between "I have not answered yet" and I have said no forever. Many of you have quietly translated a delay into a rejection. You've decided that because the answer hasn't come, it never will. That because the door hasn't opened, it never will. But delay and denial are not the same thing, even though they can feel identical from inside the waiting. Think about how differently a story reads once you know the ending, compared to how it felt while you were living through the middle of it. Someone waiting years for a diagnosis to make sense, waiting for a relationship to heal, waiting for a door to open in their work or their calling in the middle of it, all of that can feel indistinguishable from abandonment. But looking back, the people who have walked through long silences and come out the other side almost always say the same thing. I didn't understand what was happening while I was in it, but I can see now that I was never actually alone. I am not asking you to have that clarity today. I am only asking you to consider that the ending of your story has not been written yet, and that silence in the middle of a story is not the same as silence at the end of one. Now I want to speak to something more specific. Some of you have stopped praying about a particular thing. Not because you stopped believing in prayer altogether, but because that one specific prayer has been prayed so many times, with so much hope, and answered with so much silence, that you've quietly given up on it. You still pray about other things, but that one topic, the relationship, the health concern, the child you worry about, the calling you can't quite reach, the loneliness that hasn't lifted, you've gone quiet about that one, not out of peace, out of exhaustion. I want you to know that I have not forgotten that prayer, even the one you stopped saying out loud, even the one you decided was too painful to keep bringing up. It is still known to me. It did not fall out of my hearing just because you stopped repeating it. You do not have to keep proving your sincerity to me by saying the same words over and over. I heard you the first time. I heard you in the version of the prayer that was just a sigh, just a tear, just an ache you couldn't put into words at all. Scripture says exactly this, that when we don't know how to pray, the Spirit intercedes for us with groans too deep for words. Some of your most honest prayers were never spoken. They were just felt, and I heard those too. So here is what I want to offer you today, not as a formula, but as an honest way forward through a season of silence. First, keep speaking, even without answers. Not because your words force my hand, but because the relationship itself matters, even in the quiet parts. A marriage, a friendship, a bond between a parent and a child, these don't require constant back and forth conversation to remain real. Presence matters, even when words are scarce. Keep showing up in prayer, even if what you bring is just honesty. I don't understand this. I'm tired of waiting. I don't know if you're listening. That is a real prayer. I would rather have your honest confusion than your polished performance. Second, look for the small signs of presence, even in the silence. Sometimes, I don't answer with the exact thing you asked for, but I show up in smaller ways along the path, a friend who reaches out at the right moment, a strength you didn't expect to find, a small moment of peace in the middle of an anxious day. These are not the full answer, but they are proof that you are not walking through the silence completely alone. Third, let yourself grieve the waiting. Without deciding the waiting means rejection. It is allowed to be hard. It is allowed to hurt. You do not have to pretend that silence doesn't cost you anything. Grieving the wait is not the same as losing faith in the outcome. Fourth, remember that engraved image. Palms carved with your name, not because you performed well enough to earn a place there, but because that is simply how close you have always been to me. That truth does not change based on how loud or quiet this season feels. It was true before this silence started, and it remains true in the middle of it. and it will still be true whenever the silence lifts. I know some of you have been waiting for years on something specific. I know some of you have nearly stopped believing it will ever come. I am not going to promise you a date or a countdown or a specific outcome because that would not be honest, and I would rather be honest with you than comforting in a way that falls apart the first time it's tested. What I will tell you is this: you are not forgotten. Not in the middle of the silence, not in the years that felt unanswered, not in the prayer you stopped saying out loud. You are carved into the palms of my hands, and that does not wear off, and it does not require your silence to end before it remains true. If you are in a season like this right now, I want you to take one honest breath and let yourself simply be known, not fixed, not resolved, just known. That is enough for today. You do not have to solve the waiting tonight. You only have to remember that you were never as alone in it as it felt. If this word met you where you are, I'd be glad to have you back for the next one. And if the silence you're carrying is tied to real grief, real fear, or something that feels too heavy to hold on your own, please reach out to someone in your life, a pastor, a counselor, a trusted friend who can walk through it with you. You were never meant to carry a long silence in complete isolation. You are not forgotten. Rest in that tonight.